What's going on, YouTube? Listen up, young elder gang. This is Ted Strokes at you with another banger. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video, fam. I hope this video get at least 100,000 likes in this video. You will find history, definitions, scripture information, and best of all, what we Americans have been deprived of from the beginning. The truth, keep in mind, this content used in this video is intended for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only, and does not constitute legal advice or opinion. No attorney-client relationship is formed through the use of this video. You should not act or refrain from acting based on any information contained in this video without seeking legal counsel specific to your situation. We will give you the total truth as we best understand it today. Be sure to hit that like button, young elder gang. Hit that subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, hit that bell, and don't forget to check back with us every day for new content. Welcome to America, a nation built on liberty but haunted by a hidden force. Peer into the shadows of our courthouses and city streets, and you'll find the color of law. It's the mask of authority that lets officials act outside the laws they swore to uphold. When power is abused under the color of law, the state becomes a predator, not a protector. Imagine America as a grand mansion, impressive from afar, but inside, the foundation is cracked and the walls stained by injustice. The authority meant to protect has become a mask for something far more sinister. The color of law is the shadow that ensures the doors remain shut for those it was designed to exclude. This is the story of how that house was built and why its ghosts still walk among us. Let's begin. How does the color of law work? It's simple and devastating. An official uses their position to commit illegal acts, shielded by state power. The guardian becomes the predator, and the public becomes prey. Violations range from excessive force to denial of medical care. These are deliberate abuses, protected by authority. Legally, these acts are federal crimes, but prosecution is rare. Departments back their own, leaving victims with no justice. The mask of authority becomes nearly impenetrable. The cycle of abuse continues, unchecked and unpunished. The color of law didn't appear overnight. It was forged in crisis. During the Civil War, the government suspended constitutional rights, creating a new, unchecked power. Each national emergency, wars, depressions, terrorism, expanded state power and shrank individual rights. Temporary measures became permanent fixtures. Now, beneath the republic's surface, a hidden administrative state operates by decree, not by law. Agencies create rules with the force of law, and officials' judgments outweigh your rights. The result? A government with two faces, one promising freedom, the other enforcing control. We've traded liberty for the illusion of safety, and the emergency never ends. The color of law thrives in this shadow government, where due process is just an appearance. This is the legacy of a century and a half of crisis, where the color of law, not the rule of law, is the default. Acting under the appearance of legal authority, even if the act is outside the scope of their lawful duties. Violations that occur when an individual, such as a police officer or government employee, is performing an action using their official status or power. A police officer using unreasonable and excessive force during an arrest, violating the individual's right to due process. A corrections officer using their position of authority to sexually assault an inmate, or a police officer coercing someone during a traffic stop. An official fabricating evidence, arresting someone without cause, or denying a person their right to a fair trial. Unlawfully confiscating or seizing property from individuals. Knowingly and willfully failing to provide necessary medical attention to inmates who have serious medical needs. A city official enforcing a zoning law in a discriminatory way to target a specific group, violating their civil rights. An official willfully failing to prevent harm to someone they are obligated to protect. The color of law shaped our cities through government-sponsored segregation. Racial divides weren't accidental. They were policy. Federal, state, and local governments built a system to enforce a racial caste through housing. The FHA and VA ensured home loans for whites, while redlining excluded black families. Local officials used zoning and eminent domain to keep black families out and destroy their communities. Police enforced these boundaries, sometimes with violence. The law became a hammer, not a shield. The result, a generational wealth gap, concentrated poverty, and over-policed black neighborhoods. The wounds of state-sponsored segregation remain open. The government held the keys, locking some families in and others out, all under the color of law. The haunted house of America was built on these foundations. The color of law isn't just about force, it's woven into our economic lives. At birth, a legal fiction, a corporate entity, is created in your name. The state interacts with this entity, not you, turning citizens into commercial subjects. Under the Uniform Commercial Code, silence is consent. Fail to contest a claim, and you're contractually bound. The law shifts from justice to enforcing contracts you never knowingly signed. Citizens become debtors by default, trapped in a prison of paperwork. The state, acting as a corporate enforcer, extracts wealth and ensures compliance. Your labor and property become collateral in a commercial game. The law is now a ledger, and your life is just another entry. This is the ultimate expression of the color of law, servitude hidden in plain sight. If your rights are violated under the color of law, can you sue? Not easily. Qualified immunity, a Supreme Court invention, shields officials from lawsuits unless a nearly identical case already exists. Without a perfect precedent, your case is dismissed, no matter how egregious the abuse. Courts have granted immunity for shocking misconduct, simply because no prior case matched the facts. This doctrine protects incompetence and malice, making accountability rare. The system protects itself, not the people. When investigations are dropped and immunity is granted, the message is clear. Authority is above question. The illusion of justice matters more than justice itself. The law becomes a fortress, defending the powerful from those they harm. Qualified immunity is the final twist of the knife. The color of law ensures the mask of authority remains unchallenged. The quiet city of Meadow Creek had always been a source of pride for its residents. Its mayor, a man named Henderson, had built his political career on a platform of community safety and local business support. Yet, beneath the calm facade, a darker motive drove his actions. Mayor Henderson owned a small chain of hardware stores that were struggling to compete with the new, independent hardware shop, run by a young immigrant entrepreneur named Maria. One day, Maria received an unexpected visit from the city's lead fire safety inspector, acting on a tip from the mayor's office. The inspector, known for being notoriously lenient with city businesses, now seemed intent on finding fault. He cited Maria's store for dozens of minor infractions, some of which were based on regulations that had not been enforced in decades. Maria, who had meticulously followed all modern codes, was stunned. A few weeks later, the city's building inspector conducted another surprise audit. He issued Maria a stop work order for a new storage shed she was building, claiming it was too close to the property line. In reality, it was positioned perfectly according to the city's zoning laws. Mayor Henderson's employees, acting under the false pretense of their official duties, had been instructed to harass Maria's business until she either gave up or sold out. When Maria and her lawyer brought these issues to the city council, they were met with a wall of denial, as the mayor's allies backed his claims that they were just following protocol. But Maria refused to be intimidated. She gathered her permits, architectural plans, and a timeline of the sudden and targeted inspections. One evening, after her shop closed, Maria found two uniformed police officers waiting for her. They informed her they had received an anonymous call reporting illegal activity at her store. Without a warrant, they began an aggressive inspection. They searched her inventory, scrutinized her business records, and when Maria objected, the lead officer fabricated a story, claiming she had been obstructing an investigation. The police then illegally confiscated her hard drive, which contained a complete record of her business's compliance. Maria was unjustly cited and had her property taken, a clear violation of her 4th and 14th Amendment rights. The officers acted under the pretense of their legal authority, but their actions went well beyond their lawful power and were clearly motivated by a malicious intent to harm her business. Word of Maria's plight spread throughout Meadow Creek. Other business owners, who had long felt intimidated by the mayor's administration, began to speak out. They saw that the mayor's personal vendetta was a systemic abuse of power. A few courageous city employees came forward with evidence, revealing that they had been ordered to target Maria's shop. The mayor's abuse of power was not a mistake or an accident. It was a willful and systemic deprivation of Maria's rights, undertaken under color of law. Faced with mounting evidence and a unified community, the Department of Justice began an investigation. Federal charges were brought against Mayor Henderson and the city employees who carried out his corrupt scheme. Maria's business was saved, and while the city faced the long road of repairing its broken trust with the community, Maria's courage stood as a powerful reminder that even the pretense of official authority cannot justify the violation of a person's civil rights. Sarah, a young black woman, was a defendant in a highly publicized civil case regarding a land dispute. The opposing party was a politically connected, wealthy developer. Judge Harrison, who was presiding over the case, was known in legal circles for his conservative views and personal biases, but his conduct in court had always remained just within the bounds of legal ethics. However, during Sarah's case, Harrison began to exhibit overt hostility toward her. He sustained every objection from the developer's high-priced legal team, but overruled every objection from Sarah's pro bono lawyer, often with a condescending tone. He allowed the developer's side to present evidence that was clearly hearsay while blocking Sarah's key witnesses based on minor technicalities. Throughout the trial, Harrison made subtle but pointed references to Sarah's background and appearance, creating a hostile courtroom environment. The tipping point came during jury selection. Relying on racial stereotypes, the judge used his discretion to dismiss 2 qualified black jurors from the jury pool, even though he lacked a valid race-neutral reason. When Sarah's lawyer objected, the judge simply stated, "I'm the judge, and I decide who serves on this jury." Sarah ultimately lost her case. Her lawyer appealed, presenting a strong case that the judge's actions, while disguised as legal rulings, were a deliberate and malicious abuse of his judicial power, and a violation of her right to a fair trial. The appellate court agreed. Harrison's repeated discriminatory actions, taken under the color of law, were found to have deprived Sarah of her due process rights. The judge was censured and removed from the bench, and a new trial was ordered. Mark, a young man from an underserved community, was arrested and charged with a robbery he did not commit. District Attorney Alan Banks, a prosecutor up for re-election, had built his career on a tough-on-crime platform and was desperate for a high-profile conviction to bolster his image. Banks saw Mark as an easy target. The public defender assigned to Mark was overworked and had little time to investigate the case properly. Banks, acting under the color of law, used his authority to actively obstruct the defense. He knowingly withheld exculpatory evidence, including a police report mentioning a different suspect description and a witness statement that cleared Mark. When the public defender asked for access to the evidence, Banks's office stonewalled him, citing ongoing investigation procedures. During the trial, Banks put on a misleading case based on circumstantial evidence. The evidence was strong enough, coupled with Mark's lack of a solid alibi, to secure a conviction. Banks won his election and moved on, but years later, a young intern in the DA's office, reviewing old files for a legal project, discovered the hidden exculpatory evidence. The intern, deeply disturbed, leaked the information to an investigative journalist. The journalist's reporting exposed Banks's long history of similar misconduct. A new team of prosecutors reopened Mark's case, which led to his exoneration. Banks was subsequently indicted, not for the wrongful conviction itself, but for the willful deprivation of Mark's constitutional rights. His actions, performed under the authority of his office, were deemed a deliberate abuse of power. Banks was convicted and sentenced to prison. Officer Jenkins, a veteran of the police force, was determined to get a conviction for a local drug trafficking ring. He had targeted a man named David, a lower-level courier, and wanted David to give up the names of those higher up in the operation. During an unauthorized search of David's car, Jenkins discovered a small amount of cash, but no drugs. Seeing his case crumble, Jenkins acted under the color of his office and planted a small bag of cocaine he had confiscated in an unrelated case. He then completed a false police report, claiming he found the cocaine in the car's glove compartment. In court, Jenkins took the stand and committed perjury, lying about finding the drugs. When David's lawyer challenged Jenkins on his inconsistent statements, Jenkins used his authority and reputation as an officer to lend credibility to his lies. He convinced the judge to dismiss the defense attorney's arguments, which were aimed at discrediting Jenkins's character. David was convicted, but a few months later, an internal affairs investigation into a separate matter uncovered a pattern of misconduct by Jenkins, including records that exposed his evidence tampering. The planted evidence was traced back to an old case file, and the falsified reports were found. David's conviction was overturned. Jenkins was federally indicted under 18 U.S.C. paragraph 242 for the deprivation of rights under color of law, specifically for tampering with evidence and lying under oath. He was stripped of his badge and sentenced to several years in prison for abusing his official authority to illegally convict an innocent man. Maria's case was against the city of Northwood and Officer Vance for an incident that occurred during a routine traffic stop. The night in question, Officer Vance pulled Maria over for a broken taillight. The encounter escalated when Vance, without warning, violently pulled Maria from her car after she questioned his demand to search the vehicle without a warrant. He then arrested her for resisting arrest, even though Maria had remained in the car with her hands on the wheel as instructed. How Maria won. Secured key evidence. Maria's vehicle had a dashcam that automatically recorded the incident. The footage, later retrieved by her attorney, provided a clear, objective account of the events. It showed Maria calmly and politely questioning the officer's request for a search, Officer Vance's sudden and aggressive action of pulling her from the car, Maria's minimal physical reaction to being removed from the vehicle, the officer falsely claiming she resisted arrest. 1. Found corroborating witnesses. Maria's attorney located a witness who had been walking their dog nearby. The witness, a former police dispatcher, provided a statement detailing what she saw and confirmed that Maria had not resisted. The witness's credibility was bolstered by their experience with law enforcement procedures. 2. Used medical records to prove injury. Maria's hospital records documented a broken arm and severe bruising sustained during the arrest. The records contradicted Officer Vance's police report, which claimed Maria had minor injuries from a brief scuffle. The stark discrepancy helped undermine the officer's credibility. 3. Demonstrated a pattern of behavior. Maria's attorney discovered through pre-trial discovery that Officer Vance had a history of similar excessive force complaints that were dismissed internally. Although the complaints were sealed, the attorney argued that the pattern of behavior was relevant to show the city's deliberate indifference to his actions. The judge agreed to admit this limited evidence, revealing a potential systemic issue. 4. Overcame qualified immunity. The defense attempted to argue qualified immunity for Officer Vance, claiming his actions were reasonable under the circumstances. Maria's attorney argued that the right against excessive force during a low-level traffic stop was clearly established. The judge, reviewing the dashcam footage, found that no reasonable officer would have acted as Vance did, denying his qualified immunity defense and allowing the claim to proceed. 5. The outcome. With the overwhelming evidence, the video, the witness, and the medical records, a jury found Officer Vance and the City of Northwood liable under Section 1983. Maria was awarded a substantial sum for damages, and the court ordered policy changes for the Northwood Police Department. The case involved Marcus, an art gallery owner, and City Inspector Jenkins. Jenkins, after being denied a bribe, returned to Marcus's gallery with a search warrant. The warrant, signed by a sympathetic judge, was based on falsified information about alleged safety code violations. During the inspection, Jenkins and his team illegally seized 2 valuable sculptures, claiming they were evidence of a structural hazard. How Marcus won. 1. Highlighted the defendant's improper motive. Marcus's attorney used subpoenaed phone records and text messages to show a connection between Inspector Jenkins and a rival gallery owner. The records showed Jenkins arranging a meeting with the rival shortly after Marcus refused to pay a bribe, establishing a clear motive for the illegal seizure. The attorney also presented testimony from a third party who had been present when Jenkins was originally rebuffed. 2. Challenged the search warrant. The attorney demonstrated that the warrant was obtained under false pretenses. Marcus's expert structural engineer testified that the structural hazards cited in the warrant were fabricated. The judge, seeing the clear deception, ruled that the warrant was invalid and that the seizure of property was unconstitutional. 3. Documented the unlawful seizure. Marcus and his attorney had meticulously documented the entire interaction with a cell phone video and detailed notes, including the inspector's offhand comments and the specific sculptures seized. The video showed Jenkins taking the sculptures and ignoring Marcus's protests. This documentation proved the illegal nature of the seizure. 4. Proved damages. Marcus was able to provide clear financial evidence of his damages. He presented receipts and expert appraisals for the 2 sculptures, which were never returned and likely sold by Jenkins. Marcus also provided evidence of business interruption and reputational harm, demonstrating the full scope of his financial injury. 5. Established a custom or policy of corruption. Marcus's attorney filed a separate claim against the city of Midtown. Through aggressive discovery, he uncovered other instances of Inspector Jenkins and other city employees using falsified warrants to harass business owners who refused to pay bribes. This pattern proved a widespread, albeit unwritten custom of corruption within the city department, making the municipality liable for its employees' actions. 6. The outcome. The jury found in favor of Marcus on both the individual and municipal claims. Marcus was awarded not only compensation for his lost property, but also punitive damages against Inspector Jenkins. The verdict prompted a federal investigation into the city's inspection department, leading to more arrests and significant institutional reform. We live in a prison of the mind, built from the shadows of the color of law. Its walls are legal doctrines and forgotten history. Its guards wear the mask of authority. The first step to freedom is seeing the prison for what it is. We must learn the difference between what is legal and what is lawful, between statutes and true rights. The color of law obscures this difference, keeping us compliant. Redemption begins with reclaiming personal sovereignty and challenging the system's fictions. Collectively, it means confronting our history and making amends for injustices committed under the color of law. The haunted house can be cleansed, but it takes courage. We must judge actions, not titles, and demand the law protect the weak, not the powerful. Only then can we tear down the prison walls and build a nation on true justice. The choice is ours: remain in the shadows or step into the light.